Pleasure to be back. I was a little concerned when I seen you were voting online. I'm thinking, oh geez, they're going to vote in my speech. But it's all good. Well, look, I've got to meet many of you person to person. There's more, obviously, that I want to meet and ensure that I do at some point in this tenure that I have. But I wanted to start off with maybe a little different today because I felt that it was important. And I referred maybe even last night to the RBC report. I think it was by John Stackhouse. And I just wanted, last night I was lying in bed and I was reading it again, and I want to read part of it with you because I think it's important for the agriculture community to kind of see maybe a little bit of our vision, because it kind of set the stage for some of the actions that we've taken. Canada's agriculture sector has all the ingredients to be the best in the world. Productive soils, temperate climate, advanced on-farm mechanization, and growing agri-food manufacturing sector. The size of the opportunity for Canada really comes into focus when you consider the scale of production as the breadbasket of the world. Rapid development of digital tools, which are transforming every aspect of farming, and growing access to expand high potential export markets, mostly notable in Middle East, Asia, Europe, etc. Capitalizing on this momentum, however, won't be easy. Productivity has been steadily declining in recent years, and the sector has struggled to attract the right mix of talent and maintain the level of investment in R&D that is required to remain a global leader. Addressing these challenges as the sector undergoes a generational shift is not only essential to strengthening the resilience and competitiveness of Canadian agriculture, but also for advancing the country's broader growth, ambitions, and economies. It can unlock new economic opportunities, keep innovation within Canadian borders, and position our country as a global leader in sustainable, high-quality agri-food production. But Canada needs a game plan, one that starts with the national policy framework strategy that sets the next generation of agriculture leaders up for success. So I was reading that, and I've been talking like this for a little while about this type of process. And part of that, the game plan, relies on government to be the leader. But we can't just be the leader, we need to stand alongside the industries and the stakeholders that are sitting in this room for the guidance. So I just wanted to share that with you because I felt it was extremely important to touch on it, because I think it fits with the narrative that we've been talking about the last little while. We're going to continue to diversify our trade. And I remember, Keith, I think it was October, we were in Mexico. And I was back there again, 4 months to the day, meeting with Secretary Bartigay. I always have to pronounce his name properly. And the opportunities are endless in that country. We've seen that. We've been to China. We're reaping some of the awards of that negotiation with China. So we're continuing. Indonesia, beef in Indonesia just last week was announced again. So I think it's imperative that we continue down that path, but it's also imperative that we continue down the path at home and parallel. And when I say the path at home, some of the impediments that I come across are the regulatory burdens that are put on producers and ranchers and farmers. And I think we have to do both, and we have to do them alongside each other. And I often say that I can't live without CFIA, and some days I can't live with them. And I could say a lot worse about PMRA at times, but I won't. And I'm not taking that. They have a job to do. And we can't lose sight of the fact that we are known around the world, and I can tell you, we are known around the world for our food safety. But that translates into food security, food sovereignty. When I was on my way back from Mexico, we stopped in Washington. One, I wanted to meet the new ambassador. You all heard, sometimes in the media saying about certain things, supply management being one, about the new ambassador. So I wanted to make a face-to-face connection. I had the opportunity to sit down with Secretary Rollins, strong supporter of Trump. If you follow her on X, you'll certainly see. We had a good discussion. And it was interesting because I was trying to dig up some personal information on her. And I came across that her 2 young daughters won an award in the last couple of weeks. It was like a 4-H class showing of a Hereford. And so I said to her, I said, these policies that you and I are making in our countries, and we're trying to advance agriculture and agri-food, I said, extremely important for Anna and Lily. And she kind of looked at me, as if to say, don't get too personal. But I wanted to hit her where it makes you stop and think. And we did that. And then we had an open discussion about 4-H, about the integrated possibilities between our 2 countries, about the challenges we face. And I talked a little bit about China, because China is a powerhouse, an economic powerhouse that we really have to be aware of. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. So I said, we need to do it together. And that was kind of the message that I left it with her was, don't cut us out. You're an important market. We're an important market. So we need to work together, and we need to challenge the world globally, because we're not big enough to do it alone. And some of you might say that the U.S. is big enough to do it alone. They're not. China is much more powerful than the U.S. They're ahead of them in many, many areas, including technology. So I just wanted to leave you a little bit with that. Cutting red tape, obviously, I'm going to continue to advocate on your behalf with PMR CFIA. And I must say, CFIA, I don't know if there's anybody from CFIA in the room, but they're doing a much better job than when I first started. It was a real challenge. But we're going to work alongside them. I take them on all my trips now, wherever I go around the world, and it seems to be helping. Innovation and investment, we're going to continue to invest. We had the investment forum 2 weeks ago. Our investment in agriculture in this country is 30 to 1 less than the U.S. That has to improve. It has to improve if we're going to be competitive in the near future. So we'll continue to do that with that $7 billion that was announced, 2 from FCC and 20 from other investment firms, and some of them in the U.S. And then, of course, we have the National Policy Framework, which we held our first session last night. It was the first one for me besides the opening kickoff. And, I learned a couple things last night that I didn't know, and that's why I'm here. Because if I stop learning each and every day and become too complacent in this position, then it's not going to be any fun for anybody, including myself. So, and then we have the white elephant in the room, which is the science. And I said to you a couple of weeks ago, a group, we can't go forward with all these achievements that we want to make if we don't have appropriate science. Science builds on our capacity. It helps our farmers and ranchers on a daily basis. So we're going to have to continue that. And I know it's not easy in this job when you're asked to cut 15% from your budget. And you're thinking, I'm not cutting programs at the farm gate. So what do we have to do? We're not cutting science. We're cutting facilities. And it's not easy. You sympathize. I've gone through this before as a provincial minister of finance to trying to balance a budget. We need to streamline. We need to collaborate. We need to build an ecosystem in this country with our academias, with our private sector, and with AAFC, that we know exactly what everyone's doing and how we can help and benefit each other. And in that report that I started out this speech with, I want to read the statistics on research and development, basically focused on agriculture. The research and development system is becoming less diverse. Public investment in agriculture knowledge generation, which includes R&D, has declined by 15% since 2010. Private sector outsourced R&D to universities is down 77% over the past 5 years. The number of enterprises, private companies, conducting research and development in the past decade has shrunk by 30%. And that will take, as you know, research takes time to develop and register and so on and so forth to activate into a market. So this is lag. We're in a lag time right now. And we may look around and say, we're doing pretty good on research. And we are in some instance. But you know what? We need to do better. We need to prepare for the 21st century. AI is going to play a very significant part in each and everything that we do as individuals, in our businesses, on our farms, as a government. So we need to make sure that we're doing everything possible that we can accommodate some of these mass changes that are going to happen relatively quickly, and we need to be prepared. So with that, Keith, I think I'll wrap up because I'm sure they're getting tired of listening to me. But I appreciate everything that you do. Most of you know that I'm a pretty open book and willing to sit and chat at any time, at any moment. Most of you have my contact information. My staff says, I wish you'd just give it to us. But you know what? I like to deal one-on-one with people. I appreciate each and every one that comes on these trade missions with us. It means so much to a minister. We talked about it this morning at caucus. And I can't say enough about, we talked about it at cabinet too, can't say enough about the importance of having, people like Keith, pork producers, beef, dairy, doesn't matter, standing behind us when we're up speaking and giving them the opportunity to have input to what we say and what we do on these trips is extremely important. Excuse me. So, CFA, you do a tremendous job. Appreciate the support. We're never going to always agree, and that's okay, because if we did, then there'd be something absolutely wrong. So I appreciate the cooperation and collaboration, and please, I wish everyone the success this season, and hopefully I'll get to see you back here. Thank you. Good.
We do have time for some questions if anyone has any. And if someone's going to the mic, other than Ron, no. I just wonder, Minister, not to put the onus on you, but of course the agriculture industry is concerned about where your cuts are, obviously, and you've heard it. We feel that research is extremely vital. Third-party research is extremely vital to the industry. Are there any thoughts on how we bridge that gap from the federal government participation point? How do we figure that out going forward so we don't lose the vital research that we potentially could be?
Well, I think is that on? Yeah. I think Keith, honestly, you know what? I said this many times. When we're asked to do this, we had to look at where we needed to make cuts, that we could make cuts without jeopardizing the industries and sectors that fall under this portfolio. And when we looked at, we had 700 and some million in deferred maintenance on some of these facilities. And I'm not blaming any government. That's over the past 20 years. There's been no investment. And then we had looked at the budgets of some of these facilities, and some of these facilities are running upwards of 50% going towards their maintenance. So you're not getting the science that maybe you should be getting. So, but here's the thing, and this is extremely important for everybody to be aware of. I'm not a scientist. I'm a politician. I want to be part of the result of something positive within that science community that we're dealing with. I want to make sure that stakeholders like yourselves have the input to what's important to you on this path forward. And if the national policy framework is one avenue, that's fine. I will be convening with my ministers across the country. I want their input on it. I want different stakeholders. CFA will obviously be part of that. We need to define what we want to do. The academias across the country will be part of that. They need to play a significant role in this. And then, of course, our 17 centers that we're going to maintain across the country, one in every province, more in some, is extremely important. And those scientists, I believe we have about 355, 56 scientists across the country. At the end of this, we may lose 20 to 25. We're not going to lose the science that they're doing if it pertains to basically what we need going forward. So everything will be evaluated, and as we move forward through this process, we're not going to do it alone as a government. We're going to do it with some of our stakeholders as well.
I feel a little bit like Rodney Dangerfield, Keith, so anyways, but all the old people know that joke. Anyways, I do want to say, Minister, you hit the ground running, and I don't know if we say enough publicly thank you for everything you've done, because look, when the Prime Minister came in, we saw a lot of movement happening right away. We saw a lot of issues that we hadn't seen rectified move very quickly. The announcement this week on drones and the implementation of that strategy from our field veg guys is very important, and I think we'll see a lot of strength now moving forward. There's a whole bunch of moving parts, and I think as we bring other ministers in line is important. I know you're a champion around caucus for our voice. The big thing that we're curious about, though, the Prime Minister made the announcement on food security. How, who, and when is it all coming together? Because a lot of us in the sector, no one's reached out to us. I just had a call with the Minister of Health's office and a lot of good discussion around PMRA, but everyone's kind of wondering who's in charge. And I don't know if it's going, if you know yet inside, because I know the Prime Minister's moving pretty quick, but I know we're willing to help. We just need to know how and when.
I think he does that so the bureaucracy will move quicker
Yeah.
to get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
a certain starting point. But no, look, there's more information to come on that, and I appreciate that. But I mean, you have to be part of that conversation. Food security is why we're here.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that'll be part and parcel of it. But we have a lot of information on it. But in saying that, along with some of the other departments, Ron, they're starting to recognize agriculture. I said, for example, CI Infrastructure Bill Canada, we're starting to see and have conversations about how we fit into those programs, the CIF program, the $5 billion one, starting to say, okay, agriculture could fit into this. It's listed in it. We made sure it was listed in there as an entity under all the steel, the aluminum, so on and so forth. So there's opportunities there. We just need to figure out ways to execute for people and companies that want to invest in that. So that'll be part and parcel of my job, obviously, but certainly agriculture, agri-food, around that cabinet table now is spoken about. It'll be spoken about this afternoon at a Canada Builds Committee, which I sit on with Dominic and stuff. There's a couple things on there, agenda items I can't obviously talk about, but they're agriculture items. And the name of that committee is Canada Infrastructure Bill Committee.
And that's an important point, and I think as we go forward, I mean, we appreciate the exposure that we feel we've been lacking for a long time within the government. I think what's a little bit frustrating, though, for some of us, and I've talked to Guy about this, is that when we sit in front of other ministries and we use the word agriculture or food, they immediately want to send us back to you, which is fine. But if we're dealing with infrastructure, we want to talk to the infrastructure ministry. If we're dealing with trade, we want to talk to the ministries that are responsible for trade. Or if it's environment, we want to talk to environment along with you. And so I'm hoping that as we go forward, you can do some arm twisting to get us in front of those people that we need to in other ministries, because a lot of what we do does require a whole of government approach. You can't just put the burden on the Minister of Agriculture, both financially and workload-wise, when it really should be more of a whole of government. Finance needs to be part of those conversations too. So I look forward to continue those conversations as we move forward. Just quickly, any more last-minute questions out there that anybody has? Don't see anybody. Mark, you going to the mic? Okay.
So my name is Mark Reeser from Ontario Federation of Agriculture. The statistics that you referenced regarding research and innovation in Canada are sobering and stunning, actually, because I've never heard them all referenced at the same time. And I see government spending money in other places, and I will reference a fast train to go from one city to another in southern Ontario and Quebec, with a budget of $99 billion. And I think to myself, what could that money have done, or what could it be used for to do other things in this country? Nation-building exercises that could include research. And my question is, how can you, how can anyone, how can we convince the government that their priorities need to be looked at carefully. And we need to decide whether are we going to provide people with a fast train, or are we going to build a country that can feed the world? How do we do that?
Well, it's a fair question, Mark, but I mean, there's different budgets and there's different silos of budgets within government. I stand up day after day saying we need better logistics, we need better transportation, we need better ports, we need better rail lines. And another person could stand up and say, why are we spending so much money in Vancouver Port? Well, here's why. Why are we spending, and the shovels should be in the ground in Montreal early next month in Contrecoeur Port. So it's a back and forth. I guess I have to be there to represent the portfolio that I'm there, to be a strong voice, to get them to understand the economic value, the 7% of our GDP. There's going to be all kinds of projects and progress that we don't always agree with, including myself. But we look at it as a whole of Canada and what it can do. So I think it's a back and forth. And it's difficult at times, but I have a lot of people say, why are we doing the ports and why am I so focused on them? And then I have to sit there and explain myself. But that's part of it. And I think that's part of the give and take in a government. We're not going to be everything to everybody, but we make sure that the priorities that we need to build a better future are on the table.
Okay, well, I'm going to accent what Ron just said when he came up, and a profound thank you from us, because your access to you is incredible, and we really appreciate that. And we also appreciate your commitment to the industry. It's very evident, and it's something I know the entire industry really appreciates a lot. So thank you for making those efforts, for doing what you do, and continue doing it. And we're a phone call away. Thank you.